Well, hello everyone, I'm MVArts. Welcome back to this introduction to Blender. In the previous video, we saw how we can use traditional box modeling to model basically every shape we need. Today we're going to take a different approach. We're going to see how we can reuse meshes, clean them up and build on top of it, use those meshes as a base for our new models. For example, I want to clean up the shirt. I want to reuse it as a base to build on the armored pieces for the arm. I select the sweater, and you see that the sweater or the shirt is in its own layer, or collection I should say. We can hide all the rest, because we don't need those. Apparently these are at different layers as well, but we can move them to our collection. So select this mesh, select the laces as well, and the MVArts logo. Press M, and you get this pop-up menu. Move to collection, and I want to move it to the collection character. Now they're in here, and you can see we can hide those as well. These two layers didn't show up in our collection because they're lower in the hierarchy. So apparently they are parented to another mesh. How you can figure out where they are is using this simple trick, and that is zoom to select it. If we are in the collections menu on the right, and you hit the period key on your numpad, it will zoom to select it. And there it is. You can see we can now disable this viewport. We can do the same for the laces. So the period key on the numpad when you hover over this menu. There it is, and disable. I can close these two, and now we're left with just the sweater. Zooming into your selection doesn't only work in the properties panel. It does work in the 3D view as well. So I'm gonna zoom out, and I'm gonna press the period key on my numpad again. There it is. We zoomed into the selection. This works for objects as well as vertices, points, and polygons in edit mode. Speaking of, we're gonna enter edit mode. In edit mode, I wanna get rid of everything but the arm. So I'm gonna go into polygon mode, and I will make a loop selection, and I will Ctrl+ to grow my selection. I will paint in the rest of these. I'm gonna say X and delete faces. Apparently I missed a few, and I select those now and delete faces. We only need one sleeve, so I'm gonna go into wireframe, and I'm gonna circle select and delete all of these. Now we're left with only one sleeve. I'm gonna get rid of the inset because I don't need it, and I just want the basic shape for the arm. Now what we can do is circle select all of these. I'm gonna say Ctrl+ to grow my selection again. And I'm gonna say loop selection here. And now I've selected all I needed. I can grow my selection once again. Now I selected all I needed, and I can press X and delete faces. There are some extra polygons here, and I want to loop select these to get rid of them. Okay, now we're left with this big hole in our mesh. We are going to clean this up even further. You can see down at the bottom there are multiple bevels, and there's even an inside of the sleeve, and we don't need all of this. I just want the basic shape. So again, loop select this, grow the selection, and delete these faces. Now we're gonna switch to edge mode, and we're gonna loop select all the edges we don't need. Now we have all we don't need, and we're gonna say delete edges. Oh no, what happened? We got rid of our mesh. If I Ctrl Z, I wanna say dissolve the edges. There's a difference between deleting the edges and dissolving the edges. Deleting edges will get rid of the polygons as well, and sometimes even the vertices. Dissolving the edges will just get rid of the selected edges and keep the rest of the mesh intact. This is looking better already. Now, you can see that now we have the basic shape of the arm, but there is this big hole inside our arm. How can we fix this? Let's see what we can do. There's an option in Blender called Fill Hole. Now, if I select all of these edges, if I press F, I will automatically fill in our selected polygon. What we can do is select this and Ctrl click the opposing side and hit F and go about this one by one. In this example, it's not that big of a deal, but there will be times that this is going to be such a pain in the neck. So I'm gonna show you a different method. Okay, I zoomed out and I will Ctrl Z to get all of our polygons deleted. To fill this hole, we're gonna loop select the border. I'm gonna go into the edges menu and I'm gonna say bridge edge loop. But before we're gonna do that, we need to make sure that we deselect these two. You just wanna select the opposing edges. Now I'm gonna go back in the edges menu and I'm gonna say bridge edge loop. We now bridge the gap in our mesh. But as you can see at the bottom here, there's still a little bit of a gap. That is because there was another loop cut here. But how do we fix this? I'm gonna zoom out a bit and I'm gonna make another loop cut. Right down the middle. You can see that it's pretty flat, so I'm gonna drag it out. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna disable proportional editing and I'm gonna drag it out to about here. You might think this is perfect, but there is still a hole in the mesh and the vertices are just overlapping. We need to close it up, and how we can do that is by merging these two vertices. I'm gonna select these two vertices. You can see that we have a blue vertex and a white vertex. The white vertex is the active vertex and the blue vertex is the selected, meaning the white vertex is the last vertex we selected. Well, this is important because if we Alt M, we go into the merge panel. In this panel you see we can merge at first, at last, at center, at the cursor, or collapse. There's also an option to merge by distance. This used to be remove doubles. We are gonna say merge at last. Now the two vertices are connected and are one vertex. While this mesh looks okay, I already saw a few spots I want to clean up. So I'm gonna zoom back in. You can see that there are a few vertices that are just not connected. We could say select these edges and X dissolve edges. But look what we've done right now. There used to be a nice bend in this arc and we got rid of it. If I undo and redo, you see that we deleted the crucial part of the mesh. What I suggest is that we keep this edge and we're gonna merge these two vertices by saying Alt M and merge at last. Do the same thing at the other side. Select these two vertices, Alt M and merge at last. That created a triangle on this side and on the other side. As you might know already, triangles are not always the way to go in modeling. Most of the time we want to keep it all quads. So what we can do now is we could get rid of this edge by saying dissolve edges. Well, that introduces a similar problem. So I want to once again redo my action here. I think this is a nice opportunity to introduce you to the knife tool. The knife tool can be accessed through the T menu. So press T and you get this menu on the left side. And there you can see is the knife tool. Select the knife tool and now you have this new awesome tool. The short key is K and press K. I have my knife tool and I can click on a vertex and click on the next one and I can then press enter. I want to select these two vertices and I want to slide them a bit over here. I want to do the same thing here. I want to select this vertex and shift V. We can adjust these vertices as well, make the edge flow a bit better. What we can do next is select this edge and dissolve the edge. So we can Ctrl E and this brings us into the edge menu. In the edge menu you can look up edge slide and you can slide over the edges. This is basically the same as selecting a vertex and shift V and sliding over the edge. We're still left with this triangle and this polygon we don't need. I want to select these two edges and I'm gonna dissolve these edges. So now look at the difference on both sides. So I'm gonna speed through this because we already are familiar with the tools. Okay, I'm gonna quickly go back into object mode. I want to see if I can bring back the hands. They're attached to the body. So I'm gonna steal this hand for a second and I'm gonna go into edit mode, island select the hand and maybe include the nail as well. You can see that X mirror is enabled. That is a option in the tool menu on the right side. You can uncheck X mirror and now you see I only affect one side. Okay, I'm going to Shift D, and I want to separate by hitting P, and I want to separate the mesh by selection. I'm going to go out of edit mode. You can see that I have now a separated version of the hand here. I can hide the rest of the body again. There's a bit of overlapping here between the hand and the bottom of the sleeve. So I want to quickly fix that. And I don't think we need this edge loop as well. For now, we're going to focus on the forearm and the piece that sits on top of it. Like I said before, I want to reuse this mesh so we can build on top of it. Let me duplicate it and rename this to forearm iron Scott. I hide the other one. I rename this quickly to base sleeve and I hide it. Now we have this. Basically, we can get rid of the top part, so we can get rid of these polygons. And I believe we can get rid of these polygons. So what I want to do is I want to select these edges. I want to extrude them. I want to extrude them down. I'm gonna translate them forward a bit. I'm gonna scale. We are working in a 3D space, so it's always good to orbit around your mesh, so you can see what your model is looking like from all the other angles. You have to make sure that every angle is just as appealing as the others. So I'm just dragging around and I'm making sure that I like what I see. I'm sliding around vertices to a point where I like the edge flow. It doesn't have to be perfect, but a nice edge flow can't hurt, so I'm really looking for a nice flow. Like I've been doing the last couple of minutes, I'm just sliding vertices over edges. But in this case, I want to constrain this vertice to this edge. I can go back over the edge, but beyond the point it started. Like I said, I've been looking for a nice flow. I'm looking for nice arcs in the model and also looking for rhythm. Meaning in our human body there are not always the same curves. So usually you have a shorter curve accompanied on the other side by a longer curve that's overlapping. I want to switch from global to normal. Now I can drag this out on its normal axis. After a lot of pushing and pulling around vertices, we got a nice clean mesh. And this is something I want to continue on. Now I want to build in the curve. So I'm gonna slide these up. Now I want to select these 3 vertices. I want to fill those in and I'm gonna say make another loop cut here. I'm gonna drag this here and drag this one a bit. And drag this one a bit down. Drag it a bit more in. Drag this one a bit more in. I just want to create a nice space for the thumb to sit. And we also created a nice loop here. And I might add one in at the other side as well. I'm going to select this edge and I want to extrude it. And I'm going to translate it on the G global. Following this loop, I want to do the same thing at the other side. I am going to shift this around a bit as we did in the other side. I want to get rid of this polygon and I want to select these 2 faces, Alt M and merge at center. Shape this corner a bit more, select all these vertices and drag them down and back and make a nice arc. So now we created a loop around the whole mesh. I created a dip in the top of the arm here. I don't want that, so I'm gonna delete this vertice. So I am gonna select the border and I'm gonna say fill. Next I deselect it and I am gonna use the knife tool, pressing K, selecting this vertice, and now I wanna cut right in the middle of this edge. How we can do that is by holding Control, hovering over the edge, and you see that now it snaps to the center of the edge. Click and drag and press enter to confirm. Drag this edge a bit out. We want to give this mesh a little bit more thickness. You might think we can just extrude it. You are partially true. So we're gonna select it all. And I want to say E to extrude, but you can see if you did the same thing as I did by accident and extrude again and right click, you stack up your vertices. Sometimes this happens by accident. How you can fix this is quite easy. You can select the whole thing and now you can say Alt M for merge. And now you can see that there is a fourth option as well. Merge by distance. You can see at the bottom, remove the 155 vertices. Okay, this was a little bit of a sidestep. I made a mistake, but it was a nice opportunity to show you this method. Okay, back to the extruding. You want to extrude your mesh, but you don't want to extrude on one axis. If you press Alt E, you get into the extrude menu and you want to say extrude faces along the normals. You can see that the extrusion happens on its normal, so it keeps the curve. Something like this is good enough. If you're not happy with your thickness, you can select all and hit Alt S to shrink or grow your thickness of your mesh. I'm pretty happy with this, so I'm gonna leave it. So now that we have some thickness, I want to get rid of the inside. You're never going to see the inside, so we don't need it. We only need the illusion of thickness. I'm going to select all of these quickly by painting my selection with the circle selection tool. And get rid of this. We want to build in this stepped look at the top of the forearm. And this is just a matter of a couple extrusions. Let's select the edge loop, Shift V to slide the vertices over the edges and a bit down so we have a bit more room to build in our steps. Looking at the mesh, I see that I probably want to select this polygon to this polygon and then the few below them as well. Now we want to extrude it on the Z-axis, and that is the local Z-axis. First we want to go about here, then we deselect another row of polygons and we extrude it one more time. Drag those up a bit. No, doesn't give me the result I want. So let's select all of these, grow them, deselect these, S for scale and then Z for local Z-axis, and press 0 to flatten out on the local Z-axis. I want to do the same thing here, flattening out this edge loop on its local Z-axis so it's parallel to the other polygon line we just did. So I select the edge loop, I select this vertex. I want to say change pivot point to active element. And now you see that our pivot is aligned to this vertex. Do the same thing again, S, Z, and press 0. By doing this, we translated up our edge loop to the vertex we had as our active element. I do not believe that there's just one way to tackle a problem. And even I believe this to be true for every tool you use. It may be Maya, it may be 3ds Max, Blender, whatsoever. Shift V again and slide it over. So it didn't work because the edge loop below is also a bit wonky. We need to fix that first. So I'm gonna select all the vertices I need and I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna set my cursor in the middle of this selection. So we're gonna do the same thing, select this vertex. We're gonna say period key and we're gonna choose active element as our pivot point. Scale on the local Z and press 0. Okay. Now we deselect this vertex again. Shift S and say selection to cursor, keep offset. Do that one more time and switch to medium point. Shift S and say selection to cursor, keep offset. And there you are. Select this one again. We can now dissolve this edge loop and we can now make a new edge loop by Ctrl R and click in. I see that this vertex doesn't line up exactly, so I'm just gonna slide it over to around there. The same for these, but we'll get to that in a minute. Basically, we got our shapes here. I want to select all of these, and I want to try and slide them back. See what it does. Find a good angle to do it. Okay, deselect those because apparently it isn't working like that. Shift V, move them back a bit more. Yeah, probably like that. Control click here and control click here to find the shortest path. Apparently we need to do one more. I don't need this one, I need that one. Okay, do the same thing again. Shift V, slide those a bit more to the top. And there we are. Go out of edit mode and go into object mode. I want to add a subdivision modifier. Apparently it was on there already and I forgot it. So I'm going to enable the subdivisions in the viewport. So we need to get a bit more definition in here so we get some sharper edges. Again, I'm going to toggle on and off the viewport display for this modifier so I can see what I'm doing in different modes. See what this does. Yeah. One more at the bottom. And then one more here. One more here. Okay. For now I like this. If we take a look at the concept art, we notice two things. And I want to first talk about the different color scheme we have. We can give it a look of being built out of separate panels, or we can just say it's one piece. For now, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to continue on modeling in this circle piece in the front of the forearm. That is pretty easy to do because we have this tool, and that is the loop tool. If you have not enabled the loop tool, it is in the edit and preferences. So select the add-ons tab if you're not in there already, and you can look up loop tools. You can see that I have it enabled already. If you don't, just select the checkbox here. First, I want to see how many vertices we're working with. So first I'm going to select the loop of vertices here that is going to make up the circle. And in the bottom right corner you can see vert selected, that's 8. And that is a perfect amount for a circle. In a low poly mesh you probably want to stick to 8, 12, 16. Basically all we have to do now is right click, and on the top of the menu here is loop tools. We can just say circle, and there we have it. Disable the viewport for the subsurface modifier. Now you see this is a circle. We got a circle here. I'm gonna lower the influence to say 50% because this is not our actual circle. This is our first loop around the circle. You see that it doesn't really keep the shape of our mesh. We can fix that, of course, by dragging out some vertices here. Select the loop again, or you can go into polygon mode. We're gonna make an inset. An inset is basically an extrusion. You're just gonna move on the same plane. Basically, we're gonna hit I and drag inwards, and you see what the effect is. I'm gonna select the loop again, and I'm gonna say loop tools, circle, and bring it up to 100 here at the bottom. We have to rotate it around the Z, the local Z that is. So basically, it's not a perfect circle yet, but we're gonna fix that. We wanna extrude this inwards. There you go. That might be a bit much. Scale this over to Z local and press 0 again to flatten it out. Rotate it on the global Y. Something like this. Move it back. We got a circle, but it doesn't really keep the shape of the armor. So I probably want to move this over this edge a bit more, and then move it back. I want to slide this over this edge again and move it back here. Give it a bit more room by sliding around the outer edges of the circle. This one out. Bring in this one out. Shift V, and then C for constraint and moving it beyond the point you started. For now, this is good enough. And I'm gonna enable the subdivision surface again. I'm gonna say select these polygons, make an inset again to about there. Do that one more time, inset to about there. I'm gonna select this edge, I'm gonna delete it, select all of these, extrude them, merge at the center. Now I'm gonna select these edges and dissolve them. Maybe bring this out a bit more, slide it over there. Bring this out a bit more and slide it over there. Go out of object mode. Okay. And I might enable a matte cap to see what the edges are and how sharp they look. If we choose a matte cap that is quite reflective, like this one for example, or we choose this one, you can judge if you want it to be a sharper or a smoother edge. There are some points I like, so the top edge here I like, down here I like, but this part and this part is too sharp for my taste. So we need to fix that, of course. I'm gonna get rid of the matte cap and just the studio lighting. Maybe what happens if we do a loop cut here? It's way too sharp. What happens if we do it here? Because maybe I just need to select these vertices and move them a bit back, and that could fix the problem already. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it like this. So this is something I'm quite happy with. So the circle is a bit too big, so I'm gonna scale it down. So I'm gonna select these and I'm gonna grow my selection with Ctrl plus to around there. Shift Z, so I'm only gonna scale on the local X and Y, and I'm gonna bring it in to around here. Being in object mode, I can see that I can redo this edge loop one more time because it created a weird looking mesh. So I'm gonna select this edge loop and I'm gonna dissolve it. Yeah, actually this is pretty good already. I'm gonna insert one loop here. And maybe I'm gonna do another here. But that creates a weird angle. You see there is a weird... Let me enable one more time the matte cap part here that catches the highlight. Say I need to do an edge loop here as well. I don't want this edge loop here. I am gonna select this one and I'm gonna say quickly disable the viewport. No. I want one here and I want one here. Yeah. That's what I need. So it took some figuring out, but this is how modeling goes. You're just gonna try some things, you see if it works. If it doesn't work, get rid of it and try something else. Let's bring back the arm, or the base sleeve as I called it. You can see that it is sticking through the mesh. We need to fix that, of course, and if I'm gonna do it quickly, select this edge loop like I did. I'm gonna enable the proportional editing. I'm gonna say linear, and I want to scale it on the global Y. Now we got a bit more of an oval shape. We don't want that, of course. So yeah, I got rid of these two edges and I want to select these two. Then I want to say right click, loop tools, and circle. We need to redo the work we did here a bit, but that's fine. We can just drag it out. Oh, disable proportional editing, drag it out. Select these two vertices and drag those out a bit. And enable the display of the subdivision modifier. And then give it some more support edges here. The last thing I want to do is select this vertice and bring it out a bit more here. In this video and the previous video, I showed you the tools I use on a regular basis. That doesn't mean this is the way to go. There are a lot of artists out there that have their own methods and their own techniques. The last video of this introduction to modeling is gonna be me finishing the character in time-lapse. I will guide you through it with a voiceover and stopping it every now and then if I'm doing a new technique or have a useful insight. So this is the end of this video. I hope you liked it. Leave a comment, leave a like. Subscribe if you want to. If you have any questions, please comment on it. You might like these other videos as well. Like I said, keep being creative, and I see you in the next video. Ciao.